Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here on this beautiful spring evening for our 2023 Innovator Showcase. For the first time, we are here, and we are so proud and happy to be at Artists for Humanity, a nonprofit in the Boston community. It is beautiful, so thank you so much. I'm Susan Musinski, Executive Director of the Social Innovation Forum. This year is a very special year as it marks SIF's 20th anniversary. It's amazing. Since 2003, SIF has accelerated growth of more than 120 nonprofit organizations, and SIF continues long-term to create meaningful spaces for these leaders and an additional 124 organizations in our nonprofit network. It means that we're building and connecting and growing work together as partners with lots and lots of organizations in this community. We're strengthening skills and helping to create social change. I'm proud of our commitment to creating a community that is inclusive, diverse, and more equitable for BIPOC leaders to have access to the resources and networks that have been historically denied to them. Each of you in the room tonight are witnesses to who will come on stage, and you can make a contribution. You can hear their stories, and you can go out and tell others, and you can help to build the network. You will see countless ways that you can help organizations. They're going to tell you. It's going to be up on the screen. And one thing you can absolutely do, even if you can't write a big check, is help to spread the word. This is what they need, and this is how their work grows. In our early stage as a nonprofit, the only program that we ran was a Social Innovator Accelerator. We had a big showcase, people came and thought that was all we did. But since our spin-off from Root Cause in 2015, we've expanded our services that now include an alumni nonprofit network that's doing that work for over 200 organizations year-round, funder education that's helping funders again, through the year, learn and change and grow and meet other funders, and CORE, which is Community Organizations Reimagining Ecosystem, a national project designed and led by SIF and funded by the trustees of Fidelity Charitable, that's helping to connect leaders around the country who are doing work similar to SIF to deepen the conversations around change in the philanthropic sector and support what's working and also begin to talk about what doesn't work in the philanthropic sector across the country. It's been amazing and exciting. This year, we've also introduced a Social Innovator Fund. You're going to hear more about that from my colleague Tanya Inwald in a few minutes. And it allows us to give money collectively to a broad range of organizations, the 8 you're going to meet tonight, all at one time. And we're really excited about the money we've raised so far and the opportunity for funders to engage with the fund more deeply. Now, I'd like to share my bittersweet news. As many of you know, I will be leaving SIF by the end of December. As I reflect back on my time here, I think to my arrival in 2005. The SIF budget I inherited was $20,000 a year. I was hired as a half-time staff person. I was the first staff person, and offered a 6-month contract to see if there was anything there in the work. I told Andrew, who's here tonight, I would only take the job if he would allow me to build an inclusive community. He had no idea what I was dreaming about. But within 3 months, I could see the potential for this work. Fast forward 18 years later, and here we are. We are so fortunate to have built an amazing community of people, nonprofit leaders, funders, volunteers, key partners, and so many others. You are all contributing together towards shifting power, adding transparency, and bringing voices and skills of small organizations and community-based leaders forward. And I can still see the potential of this work and where it can go. We are here due to a passionate and dedicated staff and board who've worked tirelessly for a long, long time, and I'd like to thank them all for their contributions over many, many years to help build SIF and this work. Can I please invite the staff and board to stand and wave so that we can appreciate them? It's been a terrific journey of learning, growth, roadblocks, and successes to get to this place for all of us. Thank you for being partners along this road. Now, my hope for the next 20 years. Well, not really 20 years, yet I do have a hope for the future, that the next leader and the team remain focused on our core values: continuous learning, deep relationships, engaged community. Nimbleness, we've needed a lot of that these last few years, and diversity, equity, and inclusion especially. They have all been drivers of our strategic work since our spin-off 8 years back. As I introduce Tony Howland, our esteemed board chair, I'd like to thank all of you for stepping in and stepping up to be a part of the SIF journey and allowing me a chance to be a steward in its first 2 decades to guiding it forward. Thank you.
Good evening. It's great to see all these happy faces. So I'm Tony Howland. I'm the SIF board chair. First, I too am delighted to be here with all of you. And on behalf of the SIF board, I want to thank Susan for her 18 years of service at the Social Innovation Forum. Please join me in applause. Susan, we're immensely grateful and appreciative of your skillful leadership and vision for SIF to become the sustainable nonprofit organization it is today. I also want to send a couple of thanks tonight to so many people who helped make tonight a success. Thanks to our track sponsors, the board of directors, event sponsors, and the SIF team, and a range of corporate volunteers and partners for contributing your time, talent, and resources to help this community thrive and evolve for the years to come and for the years in the past. It's been one of the secret sauces that SIF has had. Before we get into tonight, I want to give you a sneak preview into FY24. We have 6 confirmed tracks and 2 that we're trying to firm up. Our topics and interest areas range from youth and education to climate and financial resilience to physical and mental health. And we'll hopefully see violence prevention and civic engagement in there too. Please watch your emails in June. Stay tuned. Now we know that you are all here tonight to hear from 8 amazing nonprofit leaders who will share their organization's plans to expand and grow their work and how you can support them in achieving their long-term financial goals. There are, as you know, a range of ways you can offer your support to these organizations. Get to know them, build relationships, give through the Social Innovator Fund, which Tanya and Wald will discuss in a second, and programs which she will share in more detail now. So thank you, and here's Tanya.
Thank you, Tony. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanya Inwald. I'm the Director of Programs at SIF. It's great to see everyone in person tonight, and we're so excited to be here in this beautiful venue with a community that cares deeply about supporting and amplifying social change. So tonight, you'll hear from our 2023 innovators, and we'll also have a special halftime performance by Company One, which is an innovator that went through the program in 2015. I actually realized it was my first year at SIF, so I'm super excited to be sharing the stage with them again. They're an amazing organization for those of you who are not familiar with their work yet. We also welcome folks to dive into the prospectus booklets that you all have on your chairs with more information about the work of the organizations that you'll meet later today. And we hope that it will give you more information to take action, because that's why we're actually here tonight. On that note, I would actually like to challenge everybody in the room tonight. Make the first move. If there are any groups that you meet tonight that move you in the slightest, say hello to them. Make a meaningful introduction. Schedule a coffee meeting. Scan their LinkedIn QR code to learn more about their work. So by the end of tonight, I really hope that everybody in this room will make at least one action to support this community. I would also like to thank many of you who have supported the SIF ecosystem and continue to help drive critical social change in our communities. And there are three distinct ways in which you're truly making a difference. So first, thank you to those of you who have supported SIF directly, both with capital and in-kind services. Your direct support allows us to continue running our programs and supporting the nonprofit ecosystem across the greater Boston area and beyond. Second, thank you to those of you who have supported our innovators directly, allowing them to leverage additional resources in order to further their impact. I'm sure that many of you will find that one, or maybe even more innovators tonight, will inspire you to get connected with them directly. And we definitely encourage those kind of connections. It always makes us very happy when those kind of connections happen. And finally, as both Susan and Tony mentioned, some of you have already started to support our new Innovative Fund. This is an exciting and new program that allows us to raise capital for each full cohort to be distributed evenly across all innovators each year, with a portion directed towards finalists as well. So in support of this new program, we're incredibly grateful to have received an anonymous anchor donation that will give us a $200,000 starting point each year for the next 5 years. So I know there's a lot of math here. I'm not going to dive too much into this, but basically since March, we have already received additional donations on top of that $200,000, bringing our current fund total to $386,500. So as of now, each innovator will get $40,000 of unrestricted grants, which is amazing. And we will continue raising on top of this throughout the year, and we definitely welcome additional support from all of you. So for instance, if we raise $1 million by the end of this calendar year, it means that each innovator will get $120,000. This level of support is incredibly meaningful and can be really transformational for many, if not all, of our organizations. So we really encourage you to learn more. Come find us at SIF. We're happy to share more information. And every year it will restart for the next 5 years for the upcoming cohort. So I know it was a lot of information to share, and I know that all of you are very eager to meet our amazing innovators. So I'm going to transition us into the main event. And with that, I'm very excited to get started and introduce our first innovator, Genuity, on the track Building. The track title is Building and Sustaining Social Capital, which is sponsored by MassMutual Foundation. As a facilitator, a coach, and Genuity's program director, Gina Morales-Tavares has always centered her work on creating spaces where people can meet across differences to talk about issues that they care about. She's a native of Lawrence, Massachusetts, and a proud first-generation Dominican American. And so her work is motivated by her lived experience. That's why everything she does is focused on supporting and amplifying marginalized voices in higher education, nonprofit, and corporate spaces. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you, everybody. Let me set the stage. I'm the only person of color in a social economics course, and we're talking about food stamps. My classmates are saying the wildest things. Don't you think $200 is a lot of money to buy groceries? Seems to me that food stamps incentivizes people to stay dependent. I don't think rotisserie chicken should count as an essential item. Right, that chicken is good. And I sat there, and I really wondered whether they had considered how someone like me, who grew up on the system to survive, was experiencing it. So in a moment of bravery, I raised my hand and asked, have any of you ever had to apply for food stamps? And the room went silent. I wonder how many of you have had similar moments of disconnection like that. This disconnect is what contributes to inequities in Boston today. On the one hand, you have people that are working really hard to provide services like housing and healthcare. On the other hand, you have people that are struggling to access those services and live in fear of being pushed out of the city that they call home every September 1st. Then you have people that are trying their hardest too to make decisions about how these services are implemented in the community, like the CEO of health insurance companies and developers. The problem is a system that keeps all these groups of people apart. Gen Unity is breaking down these walls. Our mission is to bring these groups of people together to have conversations with each other and understand each other's perspectives and lived realities. We invest in their leadership, and we give them the skills to work in collaboration. Our hope is to create a city where people have relationships and conversations with people that are different from them, that they feel empowered and activated to act on what needs to be done, and feel like they have everything that they need to move forward. Ultimately, we're building a better Boston. Our programs focus on building community leadership around shared local issues such as health equity and housing security. And the cornerstone of our programs are really our people, our participants. Our cohorts we have 50 adults in our cohorts, and it's a cohort-based model. And we have worked really hard through our application process to ensure that everyone that's seated at the table has had some lived experience within the conversation that we're talking about. That means that 50% live in households with annual income of below $40,000 a year and receive a stipend to supplement the time that they're in our program. Other folks come to us as they're sponsored by their employer, like House Health or BMC. Over 10 weeks, participants engage with each other in a hybrid model, and knowing that we need to make sure that we're creating a space that's accessible and that people can actually show up. That means that a lot of the times we're having really difficult conversations about the things that we care about. And we're doing so by creating a space that is centered around solidarity, mutual understanding, and trust. And trust me, that's not easy. So Blue Cross sponsored Alex to be part of our health equity program last year. In cohort conversations, he listened as other people shared their struggles and how frustrating it was to find a provider that offered culturally competent care and gender-affirming services. I wonder how many of you knew how difficult it really was to search for these kinds of criteria in any provider listing. It's not there, and I see some of y'all shaking your head. You're like, yeah, I've tried, and it's really difficult. So after the program, Alex felt like he needed to do something about it. So he went back to Blue Cross, and he's now working on that directory. So, thanks. We also make an intention to convene our participants with people that are actively working in the community. And they meet in 1.5-hour conversation centers to unpack why issues persist and create innovative solutions. Glorabel came to us as an advocate already in her community working on renters' rights. And during her time at Gen Unity, she got to meet with professors from Suffolk Law School who validated something that Glorabel already knew to be true, that there's discrimination in the renters market against people with Section 8 vouchers and people with Black-sounding names. And after the program, she continued to foster that kind of connection, and it ultimately led to them collaborating on legislation to reduce bias in the rental market. Our Lifetime Community of Practice continues to be a space where people can stay connected across the program and drive grassroots change. We've had people that go on to advocate to preserve spaces for local artists or create more effective feminine health products. And our data shows us that this is just the beginning. Folks have reported that we help them to deepen their understanding of local issues, build strong relationships with one another, and strengthen their empathy skills. We also haven't been steady or quiet as we're doing our work. We're making sure that we're building a coalition, which as of right now has included 20 employer partners headlined by Blue Cross, who's made a multi-year commitment to send their employees to Gen Unity. We are also working on a philanthropic network of partners, both locally and nationally, to sustain our work. We are seeking an investment of $4 million to do our work over the next 2 years. The first thing that we seek to do is expand our programs to reach 300 participants a year. More Gen Unity participants means more people out there actively working to disrupt and shift power. We seek to broaden our portfolio of programs to 5 issue areas, including environmental justice, criminal justice, and food security. And we seek to support 15 community-led projects in the city of Boston. And lastly, we also seek to grow our team from 7 to 19 with intentionality and integrity, and paying a wage in which people can thrive on, not just live on. And disrupting the narrative, thank you. And disrupting the narrative that those that work within the nonprofit system have to live off of their passion. I hear you. Thank you so much, y'all. And I really hope that you join us as we continue to build a better city for everyone. Thank you.
Gina, thank you so much for getting us started with such an amazing pitch. Now I'd like to introduce our second innovator, Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust, on the track Advancing Environmental Justice Through Community Empowerment, sponsored by the Devonshire Foundation. Jane Calvin is the Executive Director of the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust and has spent nearly 3 decades working on environmental justice projects and programs in the city of Lowell. Her career includes being a forester, a science teacher, and an outward bound instructor. Jane holds a Master's of Environmental Management from the Yale School of the Environment. During graduate school, Jane was offered the choice between going to Madagascar to study lemurs or interning in Baltimore to work on community forestry. So she chose the latter and fell in love with urban conservation. And still here. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you so much. Imagine for a moment growing up in a dense neighborhood of 3,000 square foot lots. Smokestacks tower overhead, there's little open space, and those with the least means live closest to the factories. That same child explores further from home, climbs down a hill, and unexpectedly finds a river practically in his backyard. Unfortunately, the river's unwelcoming. It's polluted with dyes, and a fence prevents his access. One of our early board members, Brian, was that kid that wandered up and over a hill and found a river to revive. That is the heart of our mission. People are a critical part of the equation in our urban conservation work. The Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust was founded in 1990 by residents that want to protect the city's natural resources. Our work is just as important as it was in 1990, as only 5% of the city has been set aside as open space. Lowell is located at the confluence of the Concord and Merrimack rivers. And that same river power that attracted the Pawtucket and Pennacook people also attracted factories. And Lowell became the first planned industrial city in the country. Lowell has a population of 120,000 people speaking 70 languages. It is an environmental justice community with a low-income population, many of whom are immigrants. Unfortunately, Lowell has a history of barricading its residents from nature. Our rivers and special places can literally be locked behind gates. Children are too attached to their screens, and that lack of outside time has been coined nature deficit disorder. That, combined with minimal open space, results in poor health outcomes. The Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust is changing that narrative. Our solution includes 4 approaches: protecting places, conserving nature, activating stewards, and connecting people. On the following slides, I'd like to walk you through those 4 approaches. The Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust is actually one of the few urban land trusts in the entire country. We've protected 30 acres, but our 1 acre is worth 1,000 to an organization like the Nature Conservancy. Some of the places that we protected include the Concord River Greenway, a multi-use accessible trail, Jolene Dubner Park, which provided the first public access to the Concord River, the historic Spalding House, and Hawk Valley Farm. We are poised to protect another 20 acres later this year, which happens to be the last family farm in Lowell, and will provide a vital connection between the state forest and the Merrimack River. Lowell is an urban wildlife refuge partnership city, one of only 29 in the whole country. Our work engages residents in a variety of community science initiatives, including the Dragonfly Mercury Project, protecting threatened turtles, and fish monitoring on the Concord River. We want to activate the next generation of stewards that'll care for our city's resources and ensure that Lowell is a more vibrant, healthy place to live. For example, in 2022, over 1,000 youth participated in our after-school programs at 10 local schools. We were so proud when the Environmental Youth Task Force was invited to spend a week at the Smithsonian at their National Folklife Festival to share their work in climate change. And finally, we make room for people to reconnect with each other and nature. Connecting people and places is an important part of our work, but really, some of the work that we've also done, some of the more impactful work has been in closing our 200-mile regional trail network. We've actually started closing some of the last remaining gaps. These 4 approaches come together to create community through conservation. Connecting people and places is core to our organization, and there are several stories that highlight the importance of our work. I'd like to tell you about Lily and Amina. Lily and Amina came to us as incoming freshmen in our after-school program. Lily and Amina were good students. They had an early sense of justice, but struggles at home held them back. Amina was worried about her family's desire to go back to Africa, and Lily was needed to help care for her younger siblings. They learned about rain gardens and how they help reduce storm flow. They looked at the alley next to their school and realized it needed some extra help, so they reached out to our then Congresswoman Nikki Tsongas to share their ideas for our rain garden project. They were brazen enough to ask for funding on the spot. Because they had the knowledge and skills through our after-school program, their project was funded. And these two young women are still active in community conservation as they pursue their college degrees. I'd also like to tell you about Antonio. Born and raised in Lowell, Tony took the long road through college, working a full-time job. He was looking for a place to de-stress and joined us in our cleanups and our volunteer work as a fish monitor. And he eventually joined our staff as our community conservation coordinator, and he also helps lead the Environmental Youth Task Force. We are fortunate to have Tony with us tonight, and I'd like to ask him to stand up. Thank you so much, Tony. We would not have the incredible impact that you've just seen without our funders, strong partnerships, amazing staff, amazing board, and we're fortunate tonight to have the Devonshire Foundation as our track partner. This is conservation work that matters, right? We're looking for an investment. We need your support to help us grow our organization. We'd like to ask for your support to help us grow our staff, to renew our accreditation, to update our strategic plan, to help us acquire Pawtucket Farm Wildlife Sanctuary and build an education center there for the next generation. We're asking for an investment of $1.7 million over 2 years. And we know that you can help us get there. Together, we can ensure that our community members know that no matter how you got here, how old you are, where you come from, what you look like, or what problems you are facing, nature is for everyone. Thank you.
Jane, thank you so much. And I encourage everyone to go visit Lowell if they haven't done so, and also see their turtles. They're adorable. I love them. I would love to now introduce our third innovator, Justice for Housing, on the track Pathways to Housing Stability, sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Leslie Cradle, founder and executive director of Justice for Housing, has become a fierce leader in the movement to end incarceration of women and girls. She is passionate about creating generational wealth and determined to unify families. Leslie became an expert in developing unique programs that provide home ownership opportunities, permanent subsidized housing, and systemic policy change that ensures successful reentry after incarceration. Leslie's work has been featured in various publications, including a WGBH documentary, Breaking Good, that tells Leslie's story and the alarming escalation of the incarceration of women in the United States. Leslie. Okay.
I am my own walking testimony. I am proof that housing is the key to a successful reentry. My name is Leslie Cradle, and this is my house. When I was released from federal prison, my reentry looked totally different than my formerly incarcerated brothers and sisters who lived in the halfway house with me. Immediately, I noticed the disparities between the privileged and the unprivileged. Because I was a privileged homeowner, I was able to go back to school, I was able to get a job, and I was able to found this beautiful organization called Justice for Housing. I was also able to leave the halfway house within 2 months, where my peers were stuck in the halfway house for 1 or 2 or more years, all because housing authorities were conducting criminal background checks and their discriminatory policies were forcing formerly incarcerated people whose families lived in public housing into homelessness, even though their families had loving homes for them to go to. Wives were not allowed to live with their husbands. Children were placed in foster care. In order for family unification, the Department of Child and Family Services requires returning citizens to have stable housing. This is personal for me. I had to raise my baby girl, Brianna, from a prison cell. Just because we go to prison doesn't mean we stop being mothers. Before Justice for Housing, there was no pathway to permanent housing. Despite the fact that housing is a human right, society still views us as undeserving citizens. This is one of the reasons why I founded Justice for Housing, because I wanted my peers to experience what I experienced. I wanted them to become homeowners. Most grassroots organizations do one thing, either policy, advocacy, or service. When I envisioned the founding of Justice for Housing, I realized we had to tackle it from every angle. So we do all three. We use policy to create systemic change. We use advocacy to lift up the voices of our constituents. And we use their voices to educate those who oppose us and those who don't understand us. We use service to provide this critical resource, housing, creating generational wealth and equity. Before founding Justice for Housing, we did a listening tour. We surveyed over 100 formerly incarcerated women. We asked them what was the #1 contributor to their incarceration and what was the #1 barrier upon reentry. Housing was #1, but nobody was providing this critical resource. Everyone thought it was too big an issue to solve, but we're proving them wrong. Our goal at Justice for Housing is family unification and home ownership. It took us almost 2 years, but through our advocacy and our systems change work, we were able to educate housing authorities on the harms and the collateral consequences that they were causing in our community. We were able to dismantle those punitive systems that they had in place. But I have to lift up one housing authority that's here in the audience tonight, the Boston Housing Authority, our partner. We were once adversaries, but now they are one of our biggest supporters. Together, we created the Stable Housing and Reintegration Program. We call it SHARP. Since inception, Since inception, we housed over 100 formerly incarcerated families. But we didn't just house them and walk away. We also case manage, stabilize, and provide wraparound services. Now, families are able to reunite, like Jose. Jose is an artist, a loving father, and he's also one of our constituents who is here in the audience tonight. Before Justice for Housing, Jose had been in and out of prison since he was 15 years old. He was never able to complete probation. He could never stay out of jail more than 1 year. This last incarceration, Jose's son was placed in foster care. When Jose was released, all he wanted to do was get his son Harlem out of foster care and raise his son. Now that Jose is enrolled in the SHARP program, he has a 2-bedroom apartment where he spends time with his son Harlem and his 2 brothers. We just hired Jose as a case manager at Justice for Housing. Jose's doing so well that his probation officer even let him off early. This year, Jose and other SHARP participants will become Justice for Housing's first homeowners. And because of our partnership with the Boston Housing Authority, each participant will receive $75,000 in down payment assistance. Yes. This is historic, yes. There's no other organization like Justice for Housing. This is a picture of me at the White House. Last year, HUD's Secretary of Deputy Director of Fair Housing told us, me and Boston Housing, that SHARP could be a national model for the country. But how much does something like this cost, right? Each year, over 1,500 men and women are released from Massachusetts prisons. 65% of them will be released homeless. There is a great need for a SHARP program. Therefore, we would like to double the amount of people that we house next year. We also would like to increase our staffing so that we can expand SHARP statewide and then nationally, because this is not just a Massachusetts problem. We're asking for $2 million to help us create what different looks like. Justice for Housing was founded by us, is led by us, is for us, and about us. And I want to thank SIF for allowing us the opportunity, Liberty Mutual, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on all those wonderful accomplishments. I'd like to introduce our 4th innovator, Ria, Ready, Inspire, Act, on the track Access to Comprehensive and Culturally Informed Mental Health Care, sponsored by Polar Family Foundation. Heather Whitman is the executive director and founder of RIA. It was after a couple of decades of managing violence prevention programs that she founded RIA in 2012. Committed to social justice and the advancement of human rights, she holds an MSW in macro-social work practice and MPH in social and behavioral sciences from Boston University. Heather is honored to have served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Central America and is a lifelong learner. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Tanya. Good evening. It's great to see you all. This place is packed. I didn't know if we'd get this packed, so it looks just awesome. So I'll begin. I'll not forget the first time I learned that the commercial sex industry is built on the backs of kids. At the time, I was working with 7th and 8th graders in an after-school program. The names of my then students swirl through my mind this evening: Cassandra, Joshua, Kaisha, gossiping and giggling, always acting grown. You can picture this, while feeling shy and insecure inside at the same time. Such a great and confusing age. But it was an article in the New York Times magazine, truth be told, that changed the trajectory of my life. Over 28 pages, I learned about the buying and selling of young people, the same ages as my then students, bought and sold for sex in any town across the United States. These are mostly girls, but boys and transgender youth as well, targeted and groomed by trusted adults with false promises of love and opportunity. What I can't unlearn is that many of these young people never make it to 18, and those that do survive being commercially, sexually exploited into adulthood, they tell us that they feel way too damaged, their words, to ever go back home, that they feel like they don't belong anywhere anymore. I want to ask you to take a moment and imagine feeling like you didn't belong anywhere anymore. Thank you. We as a society, we often care about children that are being commercially, sexually exploited, but as soon as these same survivors become adults, our hearts shift. We expect people to know better. We say things like, oh, if someone stays in commercial sex, they must like the sex. We say that. We say the money must be good. I'm sure you've heard that. We say this is just what some people do. That's what we say. But what we fail to understand is how invisible survivors feel, that living in plain sight. Their stories unknown. When I came to realize that, again, Ria, although Ria didn't have a name back then, was born in my heart as a pathway for adult survivors to heal from such unspeakable evil that we humans do to our most vulnerable. Ria supports survivors in this process of undoing. Commercial sex is a $30 billion industry globally, and that is a conservative number. It's upwards of maybe $160 billion global industry. You're not going to like these parts, but the US is conceivably, by multiple choices, the largest consumer of bought sex, commercial sex, anywhere in the world. And I want to make a note that this includes buyers in other countries, that US citizens are more often those buyers anywhere in the world. And you know, it's hard to hear, but Massachusetts is no exception. This map here shows you in the shaded areas, this is where Ria has served adult survivors, almost 1,000 adult survivors, 826 over nearly the last 10 years. I want you to learn very, very much about our model. We, again, support survivors in this process of undoing, and this is how we do it. We first connect participants with mentors. These are RIA mentors, individuals with past lived experience. We then focus on one-to-one therapy. RIA clinicians meet with participants as part of our model, a linked part to the mentorship. We then focus on sustainability, and this is a step in our model that we cannot miss. To transition out of commercial sex, people need resources, they need money. We call this the She Fund, and RIA provides this financial glue, and it pays for rent, it pays for food, it pays for career planning, education training, it pays for summer camp fees for survivors' children. Our goal is wholeness and healing. People find us through word of mouth, so through other people, and what they tell us is to heal from experiences of sexual exploitation takes time, as you can imagine, while it also takes the rebuilding of trust and confidence and self-esteem, again, partnered with these financial resources. Ready, inspire, act. I want you to meet the RIA community. These are mostly women with shared desires of happiness and overcoming. 100% of the people that we serve are looking to improve their lives, while at the same time, while at the same time, they are living with minimal means, working 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 jobs, and more than half have children of their own. After 6 months of receiving RIA services, this is services by a mentor or a clinician or both, 81% of the people we evaluated had a reduction in commercial sex, meaning they had remained exited from commercial sex, which substantially decreased the harm in their lives. Another 34% had an increase in housing safety and stability. And then another 68% had a reduction in financial stress around meeting their basic needs. Over the next 2 years, we have an ambitious and excellent growth plan that I want you to hear all about. And on one side of this growth plan is to increase the number of people we're serving, as you can imagine. And to do that, we need to bring on more direct service staff, but as well infrastructure staff to do that well. On the other side is to deepen the investments in the lives of the people we walk with. We hope to raise $3.2 million over the next 2 years, and to do this well, we need your support. RIA is a one-of-a-kind program model, and how are we one of a kind? We're one of the only models that serves adult survivors in Massachusetts, and when I say that, what I mean is serves them by providing customized and comprehensive services, because everyone's story is different and everyone needs and wants something different. Another part of our model that is exceptional is we bring survivors and allies together. I ask you to join us by helping us spread the word that people are living in plain sight and they want and they need your support. Thank you for your time. I also want to thank the Polar family. I saw you and now I've lost sight of you, but for providing this amazing opportunity to myself and RIA. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Great. Heather, thank you so much. Now I'd like to transition us to the promised halftime performance. I'd like to welcome Karthik Subramanian here from Company One, and enjoy, everyone.
Hi, folks. I am Karthik Subramanian. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am one of the co-executive directors at Company One Theater. Before I introduce our performers and why we're here, congrats to all the innovators who've already presented, and good luck to everyone who else is about to. We look forward to be in partnership through the SIF network. Company One was an SIF innovator in 2015. Our work with SIF helped name the role of arts in a social justice ecosystem, and how the narrative work that we do in theater and theater education can build a community of change makers and organizers to help realize a vision of a better Boston. In a second, you will hear Martinez McNeil sing. Martinez is one of our performers from our production of The Boy Who Kissed the Sky, happening this July and August in the Strand. He'll be accompanied by his bandmates, Lemmy and Jeremy. And a quick blurb about Boy Who Kissed the Sky. Drawn from the early life of rock icon Jimi Hendrix, Boy Who Kissed the Sky follows a budding musician and his rock and roll spiritual guide conjured by the boy's imagination to help him find his way, his voice, and his rhythm. It's a wildly imaginative story with high-octane songs igniting the creativity and confidence within all of us. That said, we can't show the songs yet because rehearsals haven't begun, but we can showcase the artist, and that is what you're here for. Anyway, enough of me talking. I offer to you Martinez and the Three Guys Band.
encourage you to use them, all right? All right, let's go, guys. This is my favorite, by the way.
Let's give it up again for Company One. Woo! All right. Well, thank you all so much. Hi there, my name is Sarah Dingy. I'm a program manager here at SIF. And I am so grateful to be here with all of you tonight and to be with the 2023 cohort of innovators and to have gotten to know them so well over these many months. Tonight, there's a lot to celebrate. SIF's 20th anniversary. And of course, celebrating the work of these nonprofits you're meeting tonight and how SIF can help expand our role in amplifying access so organizations can expand their reach through our capacity building programs and network convenings like tonight. Before I introduce our next presenter, I'd like to extend a few thank yous to people who have dedicated their time over these many months to support the innovators and help them get the resources that they need in preparation for today. So first, I'd like to thank our amazing consultants who have worked alongside the innovators and getting them ready for today. We're so grateful for their work with the SIF team and the Social Innovators. I'd also like to thank those who volunteered as pitch panelists and some of our innovator mentors who are in the room and other folks in our network as well. I'd also like to appreciate our in-kind partner, Ariel Group particularly. We have Veronica Barron who helped the innovators. She's a presentation coach and really grateful to have you here as well. So thank you, Veronica. I'd also like to thank our evaluation committee who helped select some of these innovators and also our executive coaches, many of whom are actually here today, who will work with the innovators in their next stage of the journey. So I'd now like to shift us to our next innovator, which is Mission Safe, on the track titled Experiential and Work-Based Learning Opportunities for Youth and Young Adults, sponsored by American Student Assistance. Jimani Kendrick is Mission Safe's Deputy Director. He co-leads the organization with founder and executive director Nikki Filionis. Jimani brings 18 years of experience in youth development and violence prevention to the organization. Prior to joining Mission Safe, Jimani worked with youth in schools, community organizations, and city agencies, including Boston 10-Point Coalition, the Boston Public Health Commission, and ABCD. He brings a deep understanding of what's happening on the streets in Boston and helps youth navigate the gangs and violence they encounter on the daily. Moving from New Jersey to Boston as a teenager, Jimani now considers Greater Boston area home for him and his family. Welcome, Jimani.
Early 90s. Roxbury, Mission Hill projects. Racial tension higher than Mount Everest for the black man. But see, Charles Stewart knew this. He thought it would be easy to blame the murder of his white wife, Carol Stewart, on a black man in the Mission Hill project area. But why? See, then they seen us as criminals and animals. So he thought it'd be an easy alibi to get away with pinning his murder on us. But see, what this did was just cause an all-out war on the Mission Hill projects, where hundreds of apartments were ramshacked and raided, separated mothers from their children, arresting fathers and sons, which devastated that community until this day. That devastation is felt throughout the generations to this day. But in response to that, Mission Safe wanted to help that community rebuild itself. So just out of a 300 square foot room, the conception and the idea of Mission Safe was born. And all they wanted to do was provide a safe space and a warm hand for the people in crisis. And I can say fearlessly, we're doing that today. See, we're working with almost 750 young black young men and girls throughout Boston, in some of the most under-resourced communities, Roxbury, Mattapan, and Dorchester. And when I say the violence and the trauma is beyond what any of us will expect, that's just a short version. What they're living through on a daily basis is undescribable. And so what we know when we see our young people, that they're coming to us with a third grade reading level. The unemployment rate is almost 20% for black and brown people. Generational poverty is rampant where assets, resources, and networks are not passed from one generation to the next. And the violence and the trauma is overflowing. This here is a model of how we do some of our work. See, when we see young people, they're coming in a little bit where we're seeing them disheveled. We're seeing them hopeless. We're seeing them with a lack of confidence. But this model here is where we create and inspire, instill some things in them to give them the confidence and skills that they need, expand their thinking through horizon broadening, and equip them with the knowledge that they need to be able to deal with life when they leave our doors, so that they can then be confident, obtain their career goals, obtain their educational goals, and thrive in the community. We do this through an array of programs. Our first would start with our middle school program, the Explorers Academy. See, that's for the 11 to 13-year-old population. That's mainly where a lot of programs do not exist for this population. So what we try to do is create a safe space and help them build some confidence and identity through arts and where they can express themselves. Also, we have our Safe City Dorchester Academy and our Youth Leadership Service Academy, and that's mainly for the high school students, right? We often are seeing young people where they're at a crossroad where violence or the streets is an option, but then there's also a safer, healthier lifestyle that they can choose. And we help them get to that place through some of the programming that we offer for our after-school high school program, whether they're going through peer leadership workshops, they're dealing with civic engagement, police youth dialogues, social skills building, tutoring, and another array of options after school. And then some of our most vulnerable population is the Futures program. That's where we have the gang involved, court involved, out of school youth, where we're helping them with job development, connecting them to trades and getting them back into either a GED program, a high school program, college itself. And this is where a lot of the time where we see this trajectory from middle school to out of school, what sometimes we call a school to prison pipeline. But what sets us really apart is that we have a unique mix of programs where all of these programs have opportunities to go to our basketball, go to our soccer, we have boxing, we have sewing, we have podcasting and music, and many more opportunities for our young people where it's not just about giving them some lecturing and skills, but it's more of like experiential learning through these activities so they can be young people. We also have over 20 years of experience creating trauma-informed experiential programming. And what that looks like is that instead of a young person coming in and saying, hey, we have a couple of things on a whiteboard, we create social skill building activities, team building activities, and a lot of things that they'll walk away with, understanding that they have the confidence to be able to now to lead in their community and be change agents. On site, we also have mental health support. That's very unique for this population because we know it's taboo, right? We know that they don't take counseling. We know that they turn their face to mental health. But in our organization, it's not just clinical treatment. It's a trusting, responsible relationship that they're building with someone to help them cope, right? And then I'll also speak about our lived experience with our staff. Some of our staff are not just staff, but they were participants first. And now they are staff, right? That experience in itself gives a kid some hope and shows our people in the community that there is options to grow. But I'll just say this about myself, right? I always say I was mission safe before I was mission safe. What does that mean, right? I talk about how the 9th grade dropout, the court-involved, gang-involved young man that was also shot and stabbed, but when I was shot with a 12-gauge shotgun, I was left for dead in the streets and shouldn't be here today. But I talk about also the things that Mission Safe instills and some of the things that I picked up along the way, where now I'm not only a dropout, but I'm a guy with a GED that got a master's in business. I'm a homeowner. I'm a homeowner, a businessman, but I also am the young person who can now be a positive role model for those young people that lost hope and they can see at the other side of the tunnel. So with some of what we do on a daily basis, this is what we have been able to accomplish so far. We've been able to double our participation through a pandemic from 350 to more than 700 young people through a pandemic, right? We've almost placed 100 young people into employment this year, right? We're seeing some of the behavior change where young people are usually reacting negatively and violently to now responding with de-escalation, decreasing the violence in our neighborhood, right? I can honestly say that we've also seen a 47% drop in violent incidents amongst our youth across the city. And in most vulnerable population, I can almost say almost 100% of our youth have decreased engagement in violent affairs in our Futures program. But that's just the start. We want to go deeper. We want to go further. And so what we're really trying to figure out is how do we double our efforts? How do we double our programming? We know how to do that, but we have to expand, right? We need a larger space. So for a hub for our location to house all our programs. We have at least 4 programs with a lot of subsets, but we're busting out the seams, so we want to have a larger space, right? We want to train other adults with the model that we use to build trauma-informed programs across the city and eventually the nation. And we also want to deepen our partnerships with the cities, with the businesses and organizations so that we can also place and show our young people that there are people out there that give them opportunity. But even in last, I'll talk about how we need to really have more staff to make this dream happen. You know, we need on-site mental health support more than we can even speak of, right? And a resource coordinator to really connect us with the resources with our young people, because we can't do it all. And then lastly, our organization mostly works with people of color, but we need to diversify our board so we can become stronger, to look like the people we serve, so that they can speak the life into the organization. So what we're really asking is, if you join us today, we're looking for you to help us with raising this $3.8 million to make this vision happen. You can get involved with us by becoming a tutor, becoming a mentor, helping us with connecting us with your network, to helping us place young people into internships and helping us raise the $3.8 million. Because we know when you become a partner with Mission Safe, that we can transform lives. Thank you.
Jumani, thank you. Hello? Jumani, thank you so much for your many, many decades of service in the Boston community. So now I'd like to introduce our next innovator, the Latino Health Insurance Program, on the track titled Community Approaches to Diabetes Treatment and Prevention, sponsored by the James B. Bosque Memorial Foundation. Dr. Milagros Abreu is president, CEO, and founder of the Latino Health Insurance Program. After obtaining her medical degree, Dr. Abreu worked for Boston Medical Center in the pediatric department. She also worked as an assistant professor for BU's School of Public Health in the epidemiology department, where she also obtained her master's degree in epidemiology. Her research studies include increased access to preventative medicine, the benefits of diabetes self-management and education, and the benefits of partnering with community-based organizations and the management and control of chronic conditions. Dr. Abreu has received many awards for her tremendous efforts to reduce healthcare disparities and contributions to public health, including the Goddess Award and the Latinx Excellence on the Hill Award. I'd like to welcome Dr. Abreu.
I'm sorry. I couldn't beat, Jimi Hendrix and Prince. So. Bear with me. Imagine being 18 years old, looking to make it into your new country. To get into high school, you need to have a physical that you never had before. The doctor tells you, Arturo, you need to go to the emergency room right now. You have a blood pressure that we need to get it under control. Arturo looked at me in shock, devastated. He tells me, what do you mean? ¿Qué quieres decir? I don't know how to get there. I don't have any money. I don't speak English. Can I go later? We have heard this countless times. We know if he doesn't take the treatment that he needs, he could die soon. We offer a solution. We will drive you. Early in my career, I was surprised to see so many people from community of color lacking access to medical care and social services. I knew I have to do something. I founded the Latino Health Insurance Program to improve access to medical care and food, and to improve health literacy for minority communities, while we also reducing medical costs. Our diverse multilingual staff provide assistance with a variety of services: medical care, social services, and some of our programs, like the Diabetes Prevention Program. We offer these services in our 3 locations, in Framingham, in Boston, and in Worcester. Latinx and African American are at higher risk for developing and dying from diabetes. People, 1 out of 3 people from Latin American origin will develop diabetes. 9 out of 11, they are pre-diabetic, but they don't know it. The American Diabetes Association reports that the medical expenses for people with diabetes is 2.3 times higher than those without. In Massachusetts alone, these costs exceed $5.5 billion annually. And with a reduction, what we say, and a loss of productivity for above 2.1 billion. Our organization is committed to saving lives and to reduce this cost. This is our model of change. First, people come to us, like Arturo, without having a physical. These individuals also, in his case, because he didn't have a last physical done, his diabetes was threatening his life and stealing his eyesight. Our services for our communities, they come to us, our client, patients, whole families, looking for assistance for food, shelter, and fuel assistance, medical coverage, and other services. Our patient navigators, some of them who are here, they provide these services that these individuals need. We also have an important aspect to our work, that is to educate providers, physicians, health centers, hospitals, so they know about our work. Many of them, so we are filling an important gap for these communities because our cultural and sensitive care, many of them, or many of these organizations and providers don't have the capacity to meet. We provide preventive care, so some of our programs like cancer screenings, vaccines for adults and children, and just last year, we provided 5,500 COVID-19 vaccines. We also wanted to say that educating people with these conditions reduce the risk and also minimize the disease progression. Our long-term care and long-term support and advocacy provide these individuals the tools that they need to become empowered and to take the health and wellness into their own hands. The result is getting these members of this community engaged and healthier, so we can all have healthier communities that our community members can thrive. Diabetes has serious health consequences. Like you see in this photo, and I'm sorry if I become emotional. This is a 55 years old woman from Hispanic origin that she lost her leg due to diabetes. She wants us to share her story so other people doesn't have to face the same devastating consequences that she had. Education and health information are important for disease prevention. So our evidence-based education programs, a year-long, are being accredited by the American Diabetes Association, recognized by the Center for Disease Control, and certified by the state of Massachusetts. Our programs work. Not only this result has been validated by our Department of Public Health, the positive outcomes, so people in all those age groups have lost their weight and are reduced their A1C. We not only have the data, we also have their smiles to prove it. Since 2006, we have served 95,000 people in Massachusetts. Last year alone, we helped 10,000 people to apply for medical coverage. And 2,400 individuals have been served by our diabetes prevention efforts, with an estimated reduction on $24 million in ER visits. Our vision is to increase our capacity by strengthening our foundation and expand our network of providers for the next 2 years. We wanted to create a virtual diabetes control and management center, license our evidence-based education programs, and offer this program in other languages. We wanted to connect 28,000 individuals with medical care and access to medical coverage. We are seeking your support. We are seeking $2 million for the next 2 years to support our work. Let me go back to Arturo. I wanted to share that Arturo is working now with an ophthalmology and a specialist to preserve his vision. We also wanted to share that Arturo has a controlled diabetes and hypertension. We also wanted to say that Arturo is in high school and planning his future as a mechanical engineer. We wanted to ask for your help so more people in our community, like Arturo, can have equitable access to medical care. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abreu, for all of your efforts to improve community health. Thank you. All right, now I'd like to introduce our next innovator, Chica Project, on the track titled Advancing Holistic Education Opportunities for Youth and Young Adults, sponsored by Wellington Management Foundation. Zaida Ismatul Aliva, bicultural, proud immigrant, first in the family, English language learner, dual citizen. So many ways to describe Chica Project's executive director. She has over 20 years of experience in nonprofits and higher education and has dedicated her career to uplifting marginalized communities and voices. She holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Massachusetts, Boston in Latin American and Iberian Studies, and a master's of education from Florida Atlantic University. She currently serves on the board of trustees at the Margarita Munez Academy and is an active member in her beloved community of Chelsea. Welcome, Zaida.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. Thank you, SIF, for hosting this space for us to showcase the amazing work we're all doing in organizations. And everyone looks beautiful tonight, and the vibes feel amazing. But if you know anything about Chica Project, and vibes are everything. So I would like to begin doing a vibe check with you all, the same way we do a vibe check with our chicas when we open up our sessions. So, with the show of your hands, so if you can shout it out too, can you please tell me what's your vibe today? Is it a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5? Let me see. Or you can shout it out if you want. All right. Okay. All right. Amazing. I knew it. The vibes feel amazing. So now that I know the vibes feel right, I would love to begin to tell you about the transformative work we do at Chica Project. Chica Project supports young women of color in their journey of collective power, Chica Project supports young women of color in their journey of community connection, collective power, and we empower young women to really find themselves, to discover who they truly are. We empower them with the skills, the mentor, and the mentorship so that they can go out there and positively impact this world. The term chica is a term of affection that two women use to show solidarity and support. Our programs serve young women of color ages 11 to 18. But you know what the real beauty about Chica Project is? Is that whether you are a participant or you are an intern and fellow that ranges between the ages of 17 to 24, or you're one of us on the team, we are all chicas. And shout out to my chicas in the audience tonight. I would love to begin by telling you my personal story and how Chica Project has impacted my life. I wish I had a Chica Project when I was young so that I could have navigated this world a little bit more confident. But here I am. As you heard me introduce myself, my name is Zaida. But for a long time, I went by the name of Zeta. Yep, I succumbed to the pressures of becoming Americanized and in turn, losing my identity. But upon entering Chica Project and realizing I was surrounded by authentic, powerful women of color, I knew I was at a place where I could finally be me. And I am so happy to say that it feels good to say my name the right way. And my mom really appreciates it. Chica Project has created a space for me to be my authentic self. and I'm one of many. I am honored to share that was started in 2011 with volunteers and 10 chicas has now grown to serve over 3,000 chicas. But we know there are so many more to serve because the inequities for women of color are real. Lack of well-funded education, equitable pay, political representation, and lack of access to mentors that look like us. But through our Chicas in Bloom curriculum that is grounded on asset-based practices, positive youth development, and cultural wealth, we are changing that. Our 3 modules focus on the power of me, where chicas get to practice self-love. The power of my freedom, where chicas get to explore culture, beliefs, values, and allyship. And the power of my service, where chicas get to envision how to take up space in their communities and beyond. Our programming supports young women to grow and shine. As I mentioned, we empower them with the mentorship, the skills, the network, and the confidence to go out there and positively impact this world. And in addition to our secret sauce, which is our Chicas in Bloom curriculum, our work is rooted in our values of power and potential, cariño and connection, love and connection, radical authenticity, and grace and intention. These values are at the core of everything that we do. They are in our in-school, after-school, and community-based program, including our virtual village that was born out of COVID. They are in our peer leadership program. They're in the relationships our intergenerational mentors foster or nurture with our participants. They are in our interns and fellows program, and they are in the culture we cultivate as a women of color-led organization. And if you're anything like me, the way I measure success is by the stories our participants share with us about the impact our program has had in their lives. For Priscilla, Chica Project opened up my awareness to the shared experiences of Latina women and the strength that comes with coming together, speaking up, and supporting one another. But if you're nothing like me and you need hard numbers, I got you. Our impact is clear. 100% of our seniors graduated from high school last year. Thank you. Compared to the 82%, which is the average of the communities we serve. 133 participants completed the Chicas in Bloom curriculum, and 73 of them received college credit through our partnership with the Benjamin Franklin Cummins Institute of Technology. We have served over 53 zip codes because our virtual village has a local reach, state reach, and national reach. But we are ready to do so much more, y'all. With 12 years of success, we're now ready to take you on a journey of what we envision for the next 3 years. For the next 3 years, we're going to focus on growth and expansion. We are approaching our program in 2.0 with innovation and creativity to include mental health education and support, and movement and wellness. We want to create a strong alumni network because we have a saying that says, once a chica, always a chica. And we want to hire a full-time person to lead the revamp of our interns and fellows program. We want to begin empowering chicas beyond the individual, so we are setting up on a journey of building collective power through civic engagement. And in order to do all of this work, we need to create a sustainable team member model that supports expansion, equitable pay, as some of my folks said, equitable pay, and it also prioritizes a work culture that that nurtures womanhood and sisterhood. And this last gas is very special to me. I want us to have a permanent home. I want us to have a casita. I want our chicas to have a place that they can gather in community and that they can get to call their own. And in order to do this, we're seeking your investment of $3 million for the next 3 years. Because when it's all said and done, this right here is what we're aiming for. Happy chicas that are gonna go out there and positively impact this world, and your investment will do just that. Thank you very much. Gracias, merci un peu.
Right. Thank you, Zaida, for the amazing work you're doing uplifting women and girls across Massachusetts and beyond. So now I'd like to introduce our last innovator of the evening, United Interfaith Action of Southeastern Massachusetts, on the track titled Equitable Outcomes in the Health and Well-Being of Communities in the Fall River and New Bedford areas, sponsored by the Wagner Foundation. Andrea Shepard-Lamba is the Executive Director of United Interfaith Action. A native of Conyers, Georgia, Andrea has been engaged in faith-based community organizing for 25 years since her first introduction in her Master's of Divinity coursework at Harvard University with Marshall Gans. Before coming to UIA, Andrea worked in Dorchester at St. Mark Catholic Parish and served as a consultant with congregations around New England, supporting diverse communities to put faith into action for social justice. Welcome, Andrea.
So last but not least, I'm Andrea Shepard-Lamba, and this is United Interfaith Action of Southeastern Massachusetts, UIA, a place where faith meets action. I'll start by asking 2 questions this evening. 1, how do you see the world as it is today? Do some of these images and words come to mind? Racism, homelessness, poverty, lack of education. And how do you envision the world as it could and should be? Equity in education, housing, healthcare, a place where everyone is free to be who they are called to be, and we are working collectively for the common good. These 2 questions ground our work in UIA. We are a faith-based community organization founded in 1996, working to address racial and economic justice issues, primarily in the cities of Fall River and New Bedford. As you may know, these cities still face significant challenges, including poverty, homelessness, high rates of eviction, addiction, and underemployment. However, despite these challenges, the people of these cities and the community leaders of UIA stand tall and firm, committed to build a future of hope. Now, how I got into this work. I grew up in the metro Atlanta area with a grandmother of great faith who taught me the value of service and charity at a very young age, going out with her on a weekly basis to help provide food and clothing and sometimes emergency housing to those in need. However, as I grew older, I began to learn that the story that she told me was only a start. That people are on a journey, and they deserve more than just having their basic needs met. That we each have a path to take that leads us to liberation and equity and transformation. And for me, that path led me to faith-based community organizing and to UIA, where we provide the tools and the structure to help create change in people's lives. We bring together people, their faith, the issues that matter most to them, and we train them in the skills of community organizing and structure campaigns of action to build collective power for the change that they seek and they need. Now, we work on a set of issues about every 2 years based on the issues that come from the community members themselves. And we work on leadership development and systemic change at the same time. So to demonstrate this, I'll take you through a people and a place on a particular campaign and raise up a community leader. Years ago in New Bedford, the parish of Our Lady of the Assumption was devastated and in mourning when one of their own, Bernadette Bunny DePina, was gunned down in her sleep, in her bed in her apartment one night, a victim of gang violence. Now, a fellow parishioner, Renee Ledbetter, whose family had also been a victim of violence, knew something had to be done, but she didn't know where to start or what to do. Her parish priest came in and introduced her to UIA and brought her to an introductory meeting. And there, Renee began the cycle of our community organizing, which first begins with community building and listening, where we go out as organizers and community members and listen to hundreds of fellow community members to hear what matters most to them. In this particular campaign, Renee went out and listened to hundreds with fellow leaders in UIA, and she gained the confidence to build a team of leaders committed to work on issues together. She then entered into the next phase of our cycle of community selection of issues, in which all that the community members raised up, they then come together and hear together and vote. And this is how we decide as UIA what we work on. And in this particular case, it was addressing youth violence. Renee and her fellow team of leaders then went into what we call community research. And for months, Renee met and fellow leaders met with families and individuals who had been victims of gun violence. They traveled to other communities and learned from other models. What did they do to address this issue? There, they were introduced to the Shannon Community Safety Initiative, a youth intervention and violence prevention program. And they knew deep down, this is what they wanted to bring to New Bedford, to change the future of the youth there. From there, they began to identify key decision makers. Who could make a change and really make this happen in New Bedford? So they began to meet with these decision makers like the police chief, the mayor, state legislators, and hone their proposal. And when they were ready, and boy were they ready, they had a large public action. Over 1,000 people filled the church hall, all collectively saying, no more, not one more. They introduced the Shannon program, and the mayor and the state legislators publicly committed to find the millions of dollars to make this a reality, and they did. The final stage of our cycle is evaluation and follow-up. And in UIA, we don't just evaluate the impact we made on an issue, but we evaluate the impact we made in each community's leaders' lives that was a part of that campaign. How were they able to find their voice and their vision and step into their own power? So in terms of systemic change that we work on, in just the model of the Shannon program, it has now become one of the most successful of its kind in the state. Each year they serve over 300 youth, and the amount of offenses that youth have been involved in have dramatically decreased in the past 5 years, as much as 50 to even in some categories 90%. And then in terms of a pathway forward, hundreds and hundreds of youth have finished their education and also gone on to find full-time employment. But we just don't look at systemic change, we also develop leaders. And Renee herself is in the room tonight, and she's the director. She's now the director of the Shannon Initiative, an over $1 million budget program, and she herself has given witness to how UIA has been the vehicle to help her step into her own power and put her values and vision into action for change. And there have been hundreds of other Renees out there. Renee, you are special and you are unique, But we have developed hundreds of other leaders along the way and brought in billions and affected tens and hundreds of thousands of people locally and statewide with our work in other areas of education, immigration, public safety, and voter engagement. We have made an impact for certain, but we are not done yet. And tonight we are seeking $500,000 each over the next 2 years to more than double our staff. The amount of impact we have had, we're only 2.5 staff, people. Did you hear me? 2.5 staff. We are seeking to double that. We are seeking to double the community trainings that base build and give the skills and the tools for our leaders to move forth. We are seeking to also double the number of our community leaders who are the base of our work from 50 to 120. And if you can imagine 120 of you united and building power, that makes a difference. But I think it's safe to say that I speak not just for UIA, but for all of the programs here tonight, that the change that we seek is not just happening back in our communities. The change is not just in New Bedford and Fall River, the change is here tonight. Am I right? It's here tonight. So I end with these 3 questions from Rabbi Hillel. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? We are each on a journey of liberation and transformation. What does that look like for you? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? We are stronger together, and our liberation is bound to one another. And if not now, when? There is no better time than right here, right now, to help be the transformation of the world as it is to the world that we need it to be. So come and go with me, go with us. We value your presence, your time tonight, and we look forward to our partnership going forward. Thank you.